In this briefing, we're going to be discussing the technical specifications of Thunderbird 2. Thunderbird 2 is the heavy rescue transporter aircraft used by international rescue. It is piloted by Virgil Tracy, the second eldest of the Tracy brothers. Virgil is a graduate of the Denver School of Advanced Technology with diplomas in mechanics and practical science. He later attended Tracy College and became a fully qualified astronaut. His skill with heavy machinery and extensive knowledge of mechanics makes him the ideal pilot for Thunderbird 2 and the various heavy rescue equipment it carries.
Alright guys, since we've already got started with painting the pod, we're going to continue with building the pod's interior. As this thing is fully detailed on the inside and with loading ramps and all. So we're going to keep going with that and put it all together. So let's just cut out some parts and see where we're going with this. Little tool tip: when assembling parts that are awkwardly shaped, a little bit of they call this blue tack or fun tack or any of this soft putty makes a great stand for the part so that you can glue in all the multiple parts and not need 3 hands to do it with. Stick it in there, have it hold it steady, and now you can glue the piece down without any hassle. Just a little tool tip. Okay guys, we're back on the build. And right now we're looking at a lot of the interior components of the car. So we're going to start doing some detailing and some work on that. But let me show you where we're at. Here we have the 2 components of the engines. Or at least what you'll be able to see in the transparent sections of the ship. Where, let's see if we can give you a good look at that. Now these were painted with all-clad airframe aluminum and then used the Tamiya panel liner paint to really bring out the details in the motor. But we're not done with it yet. We're still going to be adding some color to this and doing some heat staining and really bringing it out a little bit more than this. Here's the other section of the engine. That all-clad airframe aluminum is an amazing color and an amazing paint. And if you guys haven't seen how to apply it, I've got quite a few of my videos where I use this stuff and I go over exactly how to apply it. Didn't get a chance to record that with this build, but if you go back and look over some of my videos, you'll see exactly how easy this all-clad stuff is to use, and you can see how great the results are. Here we have the passenger compartment that sits behind the cockpit. This is going to need quite a bit of detailing, a bunch of painting and decal work. Here we have the lower deck that sits below the passenger compartment, and here you can see how the pre-shading brings out all the detail work in there. Again, it's going to need quite a bit more painting to bring out some of this little color here and there, just to bring more of these details out and make it and give you something a little more visually interesting to look at. This is an example of the kind of thing that I'm going to have throughout the ship. This is the nuclear reactor. I've started adding some details in. It still has the globe mashed up, as there will be a light bulb, as I demonstrated in the earlier episode of this build, that's going to put a glow inside of the nuclear reactor core. So it should be a pretty cool look. Right now I'm finishing up a lot of detail work on here. Here's the underside. Shaping up pretty nice, and it's going to look really good in the back of the ship. And here we have the loading ramp inside of the pod. This will be in here where you'll be able to see it through the transparent section of the ship, along with one of the vehicles that's going to be stationed inside it. This is going to have the walkways, which will be glued in here to add more detail to the interior. And then I'll be adding a few more things here and there just to try and spruce this up a little bit. So now we're going to go in and try and do a little bit of heat staining. Now, for that, what I like to use are these, well, not what I like to use several things, but what we're going to be using is these Tamiya Weathering Master Powders. These are really cool. They come in many different colors for all sorts of different weathering and give you all sorts of effects. I haven't used them in a while, but I figured this might be a good opportunity to use them on the engines here. So we're going to give it some heat staining by applying some of these powders. And you're going to see how really easy it is. Okay, guys. I'm going to show you a little bit about this Tamiya weathering powder. It's really very easy to use. And again, it's one of these things where you're just going to have to put it on and feel your way around it to give it the little bit of extra weathering that whatever you feel like, well, you know, it's just, you just have to feel your way around it. You know, there's no real wrong or right way to do it. And what I like to do is I like to hit it along the edges because we want to give it a bit of a heat stained look. And here we go. There we have our heat staining. On the part itself. I think that once it's inside the ship, this is really, the look is really going to pay off. At least I hope it does. Should be able to see it. So you see, guys, it's that simple using the Tamiya weathering powders. They work really well. They come in all different colors, tints, and you can use them for all sorts of different things. Okay, guys, now as we continue with the build, got a whole bunch of detail painting done today and some decal work, which we're just getting started with. As you can see here, we have all of the decals for the instrument cluster or instrument panels in the cockpit all done up. We have our seats painted in red, as the seats on the show are in red. We have all our details picked out, decals added to the living area, or at least that's what they call it. Not really sure what half of this stuff is, but I just painted it up enough to make it visually interesting, and I think it came out pretty good. As you can see, all of the different components in there should look pretty nice when it's lit up. Now, the one thing I have to talk about is these decals. They're a little oversized, as the carrier film does extend over every one of these control surfaces that they have to be put on. So you're going to have to use quite a bit of decal solvent to get them to conform. And you got to give them a little time. They're a little tough, but they will conform, and then you can just get them to fit wherever you want. The instrument panel was also a little bit of a tough one, as there are raised edges in between each control panel, and you have to get the decal to conform around these little raised edges. So like I said, a bit of decal solvent will be your best friend when it comes to putting this together. Now we also have gloss coated the ship. Got a little bit too much gloss coat on that wing there, but I can clean that up, and we'll do once we flat coat everything, and that should not be too noticeable. So here we have the lower deck. Had to put the panel wash on there, just to highlight more of the shadow, more of the components, maybe doing a little more detail painting on there. And here's the underside, which you'll see from the bottom of the nose of the ship. We have our nuclear reactor finally finished and painted up. You can see how I left the dome in the original plastic coloring. The other half of the dome I still have to attach once I insert the light. And you can see how the panel line paint just kind of dirtied the whole thing up, as I wanted it to seem very used, very, you know, it's a nuclear reactor. So I wanted it to look very industrial, very used. And I think I got the look that I was going for. We have the inside, the loading ramp, the load floor for the pod. Now, one thing I do have to mention about this kit, there are a ton of injector pin marks, which weren't that visible when everything was flat, but since I gloss coated this to so that I can get it ready for mounting the decals, which we have here. This is all one decal, and it really makes the injector pin marks really stand out. If you're going to build this kit and you really want to build it right, you're going to have to do a lot of sanding on these injection pin marks. They're everywhere. As you can see here, the upper portion of the pod also has them, which are visible on the transparent side. As I said, this for me is more an exercise on lighting and just getting something that looks pretty cool. I'm not worried about every last detail on this build, as I want to figure out all the lighting first. And as I said before, if I can get a decent looking build out of it, then I'll be happy. Because I do plan on picking up another one and building another one, and that one I'm going to do with all the bells and whistles. But for right now, I am very happy with the way it's coming out. Once everything is flat coated, these injection pin marks won't be that noticeable, and at least here they'll be covered by the walkways once they're set up. The lab here covers another one. There's a walkway on the other side here, so they will be pretty hidden. And then it'll be inside of the pod like so, which has quite a few injection marks of its own. But I think it's going to give us the effect we're looking for, and we can just say that those injection marks are part of the inner structure of the pod. I mean, who's to say they're not really there? But I think that looks pretty good. We'll have our vehicle. Let's see if we can get that in there. Inside the pod. So you'll be able to see everything that's going on in there. Very happy with the way that came out. Our engine painted with all the metallic tones. I was thinking of eliminating this part and just scratch building all sorts of internal components in there, but then I decided, nope, I want to get to the lighting. So that's something that I'll do when I pick up another one. More decals added to the inner parts of the engines. So we've got quite a bit done today. I'm very happy with it. I really like the look of this, and I'm dying to put the nose cone on it just to see how much of it is going to be visible. At least on one side I know it will be, but I don't know about the other side. And then I have to run the lights and see how that's going to go. So I still have the Thunderbird decals to put on the body here, then a flat coat to seal all the decals up, and then we're going to start with the lighting. So there you have it, folks. That's our latest update. Remember the couple of tips here. Tons of injection pin marks that you got to get rid of if you're going to be building this kit to show quality standards. Decals need tons of setting solution because they're just a bit oversized. Everything in here was just a little bit larger than it should have been, but with some decal setting solution you can make it all work. And now that we have the glass coat on here, we'll apply the rest of our decals, which we'll be applying to Thunderbird, Thunderbird 2, T2, all of these decals onto the body of the ship. It's not really that many of them, so we'll be getting that done as soon as we can. Alright guys, we're continuing with the decals. We're pretty much all done with everything we have to put on before we can start assembly and figuring out where all our lights are going to go. We now have the big Thunderbird 2 decal sitting on the nose of the ship. It's got its wing decals, the tail fin decals, along with everything else that we talked about previously, which are the control panel, all of our detail painting, even the engine decals are on, and everything else we talked about. So now we're going to get set to start the lighting. As we see, all of the major components and sub-assemblies are here, and now comes the tricky part. So stay tuned and let's see how it goes. Hopefully this will work without blowing up in my face, literally. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next one.